So today I'm going to be teaching you about the folder structure in React when you install your app using Vite. So let's get started. Okay, when you have installed your Vite React project, you will see all of these files. This is just a configuration file for your Vite. You don't mess around with this most of the time. If you want, you can just run this little code snippet right here, and this is just change the port number, because by default it runs on 5173 or something like that. So other than this, you will have this index.html file. Now you also don't need to mess around with this. This is just the normal file that will load all of this, and most of the time you don't need to mess with this. So moving on to the two important folders actually. The public folder, this is where you put in all of the images, videos, whatever you want that you want anyone to get access. Any kind of files you end up putting in this, anyone can have access to them, no matter who they are. All they need to do is go to the URL and just type in the name of whatever file is available inside of this. For example, this image I ended up adding, I can just easily access this using my app and also just by going to the URL. For example, this is the name. I am just going to copy this full name. Okay, just open up. I've already started my project. I'm going to go slash and then the name of the file. And as you can see, I can just easily access this file. But I also want to warn you that this is a security risk, so do not put in any files you want someone not to get access to. If you put in anything like a JSON file or something like that, anyone can get access to that file. But if you want to secure that file, you'll put it in the source folder. Now I'm just going to go back. And so this was the explanation of the public folder. Now the source folder, the most important folder. Most of your work is going to be in this. The assets folder is just, to put in any assets that you want to securely get access to but don't want anyone else to get access to. Like I was saying, like a JSON file or anything like that. You can just put it in here and you can create any folder you want. It doesn't have to be this one. It's just the default one that comes with the project. Okay, now these two are the most important files in this project, and this one is the most important out of both of them. Now most of the time you do not need to mess with this, but this is the first file that ends up running when you start your project. I'm just going to open up the other one as well, but let's talk about this one first. So most of the time you do not mess around with any of this code unless you want to break your project. But when you end up running your project, right, or your project basically starts, you will see this. This is the React DOM. Whenever your project loads, this is the method that is used to create the root of all of the things that end up going inside your project. This is the first method that ends up running. For example, this is a JavaScript code, and if you've done JavaScript, you just know that this is basically saying when my document is loaded, get the element by ID. The element that I'm trying to get by the ID is named this. Find that, and then the render method, what that is doing is saying anything inside this render method, render that to the DOM. And this is the component that is going to be rendered when your app loads. So start the React DOM, create the root of the project, find that root, render all of the code inside of this. So what is happening here is this is the file that you see right here, this one. Now this is the main file that will have everything inside of it. For example, this is where your routing is set up when you use React Router. This is where your authentication is set up when you have authentication. This is where you end up loading different type of packages and integrating them with your project. Most of the time it's here, but sometimes it's inside a specific component because only one component requires it. I'm not going to complicate this, but here is where your routing will be set up inside this. Now this is how your component gets created. You basically just write a function, name that function something. In this case it's app, and then everything inside of this return is just rendered to the screen. Okay, for example, here I will just say I'll put in h1 here, and I'll say my React app. Okay, and as you can see, this is what was initially here. Now I'm just gonna save this. Oh, actually I'm gonna remove this as well, and now none of this is useful, so I'm just gonna remove that as well. Don't worry, we did not break our project. So I'm gonna save this, and let's see. Here we go. My React app, as you can see, is now rendered as soon as I saved it. See? So this is how a component works. Now let's move on to the package.json file. This is also an important one. Now, whenever we start a project, you know how we always write npm run and then dev? Well, that's because of this package.json file. Here, I'll show you. This file is basically telling us all of the things about our project, like all of the dependencies, all of the dev dependencies, all of the scripts, and you don't have to worry too much about any of this. To simply explain, whenever we run npm run dev, that's because of this right here, dev, and this runs this command right here. And if we ended up writing npm run build, then this command would run. And same for lint and same for preview. So these are the scripts, basically npm run, and then whatever we write here, we can add our own as well, but that also depends on if we want to do something because of some package we've installed. But for now, let's move on to the next one, which is dependencies. Now dependencies is pretty straightforward. Now what happens is, whenever you end up installing any kind of node package, you know, like let's say you install Tailwind CSS, what would happen is the package would get installed in node modules, and here it would be like this, CSS, and then the version number, whatever it is, for example, let's say it's version number 4.0.0, which I'm not saying it is right now. I'm just saying that it would look like this if we ended up installing our package. Now, what this would mean is that now Tailwind CSS is installed and is available somewhere within this. And that is mostly how that works. But this was a simplified explanation of that. The dev dependencies is basically whatever dependencies you've added, it's for development purposes, and those type of development dependencies are mentioned right here. And moving forward, I'll be making different tutorials on different things like nav bars and authentication systems and etc. Moving forward step by step. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel because I will be uploading more and more tutorials on React and Next.js moving forward. But for now, this was a React tutorial so that you understand how the React folder structure works. So subscribe for that and stay tuned. Bye.